Okay, we're recording. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you. It's an honor to have you all join. Hi, my name is Tom Mullaney. I was part of the Colorado cohort that met in Boulder, and I am actually one of our coaches for VIA 20. And so I'm just so thrilled to have you. This is going to be about Google Sites. And I'm just to give those of you who are not part of VIA 20 a little peek into what's going on with our first ever online cohort. There's been a lot of talk about design or maybe a de-emphasis. There's been, and I get it with prototyping. Your prototype doesn't need to be anything fancy. But I've definitely heard from time to time, don't worry about the color, don't worry about the font. And I've held my tongue. And this week, we had a video from D, another one of our Colorado 16 innovators, and he said he realized he had to make his product look more professional for it to get traction. And I just was like, thank you, thank you. So obviously right at the start of a project, it's not that big a deal. But when you make a public-facing website for whatever you do, whether it be an Innovator Project, a unit, a lesson, a unit for your kids, it should look good. No one likes to look at a bowling shoe ugly website. And so with that, let me share some slides and we'll talk about some practices for making a nice website. And you'll get the slides at the end, but for now, I'm just going to kind of go through them and we can talk about this and all that good stuff. All right, let's share. All right, I think, oh, there we go. All right, you should see my title slide now. So we'll start with just some precepts about web design and really just digital design in general, and then we'll get into some specific things you can do with Google Sites. So first, let's talk about imagery. The first and foremost thing you can do to have a professional looking website, to have a really gorgeous website, is to have professional photography. And I know what you're saying. I'm not a professional. I don't own a professional camera. I'm not a professional photographer. Having said that, I can just go get it for free. If I'm teaching a lesson, I can go on Wikimedia and get those labeled for reuse images. There's one, and I saw it earlier, there was a session on design. I didn't get to attend, but the person tweeted their slides, which was really nice of them. And I noticed they were talking about Unsplash. Unsplash is great. 100% advocate using Unsplash. And I want to share another stock photo website with you that's 100% free, and that's Pexels. And Pexels has decided to become the first free stock photo library that's inclusive. So the idea there is that if you search, technology, Google, chopping wood, whatever it may be, the results you get are not just, white males or a man and a woman in a cisgender relationship. It's meant to be more inclusive, and you don't have to type, I'm looking for a person of color. It just will come up automatically. So that's what they're aiming for. I think, when I do searches in Pexels, it's come up, and it's been very, so it's good, it's inclusive. And so both your students and your users can see themselves reflected on your website. Very nice. Oh, and I just clicked on my link there for Pexels. Okay, alt text, just real quick. I put this in, note to self, I need to update this slide. You can do this in images on Google Slides. I put from the slide here, but always use alt text when you're using images. If we're talking about being inclusive, let's keep that going. All right, let's talk about color. And everything I learned about color, I learned from another innovator her name is Lindsay Blash. She was part of Mountain View 16, so one cohort ahead of me. She got in when I didn't. Anyway, so thank you, Lindsay. But if you just Google the words color picker, you're going to get an actual color picker. And it's going to give you all these values, including the hex value. The hex value, if you don't know, it's also called hexadec in some places. It's a 6-character alphanumeric code that goes with everything, for every web color, basically. All right, and then another thing I like to use is a ColorZilla Google Chrome extension, because let's say I want to make a website that maybe is focused on my favorite mascot, Gritty. Oh, I love Gritty, but I want to get a shade of orange from Gritty. So this animated GIF shows using color picker to grab that hex code, okay? And then I can grab that and use that as a theme color in Google Sites. All right, but when we talk about color, just because I have Gritty's orange, does that mean I should use it? So if you're looking at this image I'm showing you right now, which of these three is the most pleasant to look at? And you can drop your personal preference in the chat, or just think about it if you don't want to share choice 1, choice 2, and choice 3. So, hi Steve, great to see you here today. I hope the air quality there is somewhat okay. And so look, everybody is saying choice 3. All right, are you all just sane and conformist, and because Steve said it, you're all doing? No, it's because of the color contrast. It's because the background is so different than the text, than the font that I'm using, that's why it's more pleasant. Choice 1 is dark and dark. Choice 2 is light and light. Choice 3, dark background, light font. All right, and that's why for a long time, I defaulted to just doing black and white in my designs, whether they be on Google Sites or otherwise. But by the way, you can check this. You can go to the WebAIM color contrast checker. That would be another cool link to drop in the chat. I'm so sorry, Jess. It's a lot of links. But
had it ready, no worries.
So this is where you can test. So if I get that gritty orange and I want to use that against a white background or a black background, I can test that out, right? And it actually gives me little dials so I can make it darker or lighter till I get a passing ratio under the 5 tests that they use. All right. And by the way, I said this earlier, but black and white is the most contrast. It is 21:1. All right. And I think that the passing is 7:1 or 8:1 is what they consider passing for all 5 of the tests. But that black and white is so nice. And that's why Brooklyn Nets, I'm a Knicks fan. It's a horrible existence, but the Brooklyn Nets, if you look at their print materials, their logos, their uniforms, it's almost always black and white. And it's actually pretty appealing. It's a nice look. And so I would always default, if I was making, the reason I use Google Sites a lot is because I create these digital breakout games and I house them on a Google site. And if I didn't know what color scheme I wanted to go with, I would just default to black and white. And we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a place where real things happen, all right? And so something that happened in May and June and up until now is that the awful things about our lives, about our situation in the United States of America when it comes to racial equity have been just exposed, and we can't pretend like this doesn't exist anymore, right? And what happened at that time is that a lot of people, whether they be brands, people, they put out a lot of social media content that was very performative in its support for Black Lives Matter or for causes along the lines of racial justice. And I was listening to a great podcast. It's called Dribble Overtime. Overtime by Dribble. Meg Lewis is the host. I only know about Dribble because of Suzanne Summers. She's presenting later today. She's LAX 18, I think. So basically what happened is that all of these companies all use white designers. All these white designers said, oh, we'll just do a black and white. And so all of this performative, I don't really support anything that would change anyone's life and or apology social media stuff has been there. So my point about that is black and white is great. Maybe stay away from black and white as a design choice for now. That's where I'm getting with that. That was a long way of kind of exploring all that stuff. But we don't live in a vacuum. Whenever we think about design, we have to think about who sees it, who's affected by it, all that stuff. I could teach U.S. history. I could teach your class about the United States, about the 1960s to my class, make a Google site and have a lot of images of John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson. Or I could include Malcolm X. Like I have decisions I need to make, and how do our students see that? Anyway, let's keep going. Cognitive load. Before I get to Google site-specific tips, I want to talk to you about cognitive load. Please go light on your user's cognitive load. And what I'm talking about here is the website that scrolls forever and ever, that has all these different elements all over the place, right? We don't want that. Please, if you need more room, go to another page. Let the user go to another page, give their brain a break. I can't tell you how many websites I've seen where it's just like this thing, click on that thing. Please take it easy on your users. All right, let's talk about some site-specific tools and strategies we can use. So one, please add a favicon in your settings, okay? In fact, here, well, I'm just doing my tab, but look at your browser tab. I'm sure on SparkCap Saturday, you have all these browser tabs, right? You have all these Chrome tabs open. I can tell you mine. Right now I have Gmail, Google Slides, Pexels, SparkCamp Saturday website, by the way, just really nice. I love how you have all the videos and links, and then I have Google Chat. Now the text is telling me that, but the icon, the favicon is telling me that as well. And I can't tell you how many times I look at an Innovator Project website, something like that, and the favicon is the default Google Sites favicon. What does that tell users about you? How does that help make you stick out? It doesn't. It looks unprofessional, and it just is a wasted opportunity. So what I would say is open up a Google drawing, set it to 512 by 512 pixels, and do it in Google Drawings. When you do that, avoid drop shadows and gradients. The one gradient you'll see in a logo is Instagram. Instagram still has that gradient in its updated logo, but drop shadows have been out basically since I think 2013 when the iPhones updated to no longer have dimension in their icons. So just keep it as flat as possible. It's nice that you have drop shadows and gradients in Google Drawings, but don't use them for this purpose. All right, banners and covers. And I'm going to take this website here, Eater, New York. This isn't even a Google site, but you see this is a recent opinion piece on eater.com. Oh, it's not that recent, it's July. We're in a time warp right now. Anyway, so Eater here is using a big banner image, and they're using the readability adjustment so that I can read why this restaurant critic isn't and all that stuff, okay? So when you have a banner in Google Sites, if you have an image that's big enough to support it, use a big banner. Right now, that is very chic. I highly recommend doing that. Now, remember, you have your readability adjustment. Sometimes I use a readability adjustment. If I go back one slide, sometimes that makes it too dark. Now, this was a rainy day. It didn't get too dark here. Oh, and this is very, very scary, actually, as I look at this image. Sorry. People are crowded. Anyway, with their readability adjustment, think about, is it making it too dark? Is it too, what are you getting? Sometimes I'll put a title after my banner image and just let the banner image be there in its full glory without the readability adjustment. But that's really kind of your choice. All right, layouts. I will say Google Sites, it's gotten better, but as far as having perfect alignment between elements, which we keep minimal, but layouts are perfect for that, for having, just side by side, everything's equal. If I have a YouTube video here and a Google Slides deck side by side, they are in equal alignment. Buttons. This is a great one for kids. If you use buttons in Google Sites, I'm going to ask you, please use all caps. A button that's not in all caps just doesn't land the same way. This is a great opportunity when you're working with kids, if they're making digital portfolios or making some sort of website as like a real-based project, to say, hey, guess what? You get to write in all caps, right? So please use all caps on your buttons. Image carousels, I will tell you right now, this is about a year old now in Google Sites. Definitely worth using. But remember, with these image carousels, you probably want more of a landscape orientation. So here I use it with postcards. Much better if you're using a portrait orientation. It just doesn't render as nicely. So I would say if you just want landscape-oriented images, don't use a Google slideshow. Use an image carousel. It's just much more modern and how it's done in these days. All right, collapsible text. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to play with it, but remember I talked about cognitive load earlier? That's a situation where you can use collapsible text to have your users choose to read what's under there. You can have a little bit more elements and whatnot on a page if you're using that collapsible text. a nice, again, that one's about a year old as well, as best I remember. Something to think about when making your website. All right, and then this one, I don't know how many of you all have seen this recently. Now they have placeholders. This is very new, and it wasn't really announced. They never really made a big splash with this. Placeholders are really nice because you can set what will go there. So I can say, all right, I'm putting this placeholder, and it's on the insert menu. Put this placeholder in. This is going to be a YouTube video. This is going to be a Google Slides. And then when the person, your collaborator or yourself, clicks on it, it only opens, the Google Slides you have in your drive. It only opens YouTube. It's really nice. And to me, this is a great scaffold for learners who need a little help on their digital portfolio or their website. Hey, I want you to be doing this, but I know I need to give you a little scaffolding. You can always put a little text under the placeholder too, saying, hey, this is where you're going to put that slide deck you made. This is where you're going to put that YouTube video that you learned from, whatever it might be. So placeholders, I definitely recommend for that. All right, before I do credits, oh, thank you, Carrie. You know what, before I do credits, I'll actually, here, let me stop presenting for a minute and I'll drop a couple things in the chat. And so one of the ways, so you can look at my Google Sites, and I see I've missed a bunch of chat messages, but my digital breakouts, that's how I have become so acquainted with Google Sites. And so you can go click on that and look right there and have a look at that and decide, am I good at this website design or not? But you can do that right there. And there, I'm just going to put my last little slide up here as far as connecting with me there. So presenting my screen, there we go. Please feel free, the bit.ly for this is bit.ly/beautiful-site. That one was not taken. I got it this morning, I can't believe it. So that is there. I love connecting with my fellow innovators, Tom E. Mullaney or Mr. Mullaney at gmail.com. And thank you so much to Lindsay and Suzanne. Like I said, Suzanne is presenting later today on, I'm forgetting, oh, Ship It. It's about, like, I guess it's like, wrapping up a project and getting out there. But with that, we have, 2 minutes for questions. So if anyone wants to unmute or drop a question in the chat, feel free. And yes, I'm going to that coming next.